Welcome back to Up Front. One of the things we've talked about on this program recently is the Campus Free Speech Act, a Republican bill that would punish UW students who attempt to shout down and shut down speakers on campus. It's sponsored by Assembly Speaker Robin Vos, and Governor Walker spoke favorably about it in an interview with me in late April. But there's growing concern among faculty members about the bill and whether it will affect what's taught in the classroom. We're talking more about this now with Dave Van Ness, Associate Professor of Population Health Sciences at UW-Madison. Professor, it's good to have you on the program.
Thank you, Mike. It's really a pleasure.
So back in early May, you said that you could understand the intent of this bill, although you disagreed with the language. Have your feelings about this changed over time?
I think they've solidified a bit, unfortunately, partially in the wrong direction. As we've seen some amendments come out from Representative Kramer's office that have added language about how this would be enforced on campus, involving students bringing allegations against one another of interfering with their free expression. I'm getting really concerned that it has the potential to really change the climate to one of outright fear on campus.
In what sense? Elaborate on that for us. I mean, what specifically concerns you about the way the legislation is worded?
So there's a lot of mandatory penalties in the legislation, things that reach the level of suspension for a semester or expulsion, which is an incredible penalty for our students. And then it requires mandatory investigation if as few as 2 students raise a complaint about another student interfering with their free expression rights. And that mandatory formal investigation is a really serious thing to have to go through. And I worry about the burden on our already overburdened campus dean's offices and discipline offices. I worry about that students will just be afraid to confront each other about anything.
Do you think this is a problem on campus, the fact that some speakers come to campus and do face protest, being shouted down? Is that a real problem?
I think we need to listen to each other a lot more than we do. And this is nothing new. I think campuses have always been a place where people bring out really strong expressions of opinions in one way or the other. And that clash is really, I think, what's essential to a university. We want to preserve some respectful but serious discussions. I think there is a little bit of a concern. I watched the videotape of the Shapiro event that has been raised several times, Ben Shapiro.
Conservative speaker. Yeah.
And I think there was a line that was crossed when students stood up and walked in front of the stage that was clearly meant to shut down the discussion, and I don't think that was appropriate. But Ben Shapiro used that event really, I think, to maximum advantage. He engaged with them and really riled up his audience, and that's what I think partly it's intended to do. So all of this is a bit ironic to me.
Are there enough conservative speakers on campus? That seems to be at the root of this, that conservative views are not welcome on UW campuses, that there aren't enough opportunities for conservatives to speak. What do you think about that?
I don't think anybody keeps track. I think what happens is people are brought into campus to give guest lectures. That's the most common thing that happens. And nobody reports about them because they're completely uncontroversial and they largely don't even touch on political issues or things that we would consider to be polarizing. So we bring on people all the time to speak about areas in which they're experts, and we have no idea what their political affiliation is. And I think that when it comes down to, do campus student organizations tend to invite more liberals than conservatives? I think that's likely the case because probably they're more active on campus.
Something you've heard more from faculty members in recent days is a concern about this legislation somehow bleeding over into the classroom. What is the concern here?
Well, I think the concern for me really kicked in. I attended the hearing on this a couple weeks ago, and I was really concerned about an exchange that happened between Representative Therese Berceau and Representative Jesse Kramer, which has now become a bit of an issue. Right. And at that point, I hadn't really thought that the clause requiring the university to remain neutral in its interactions with controversial issues would extend into the classroom. And in fact, during the testimony, they said this won't reach into the classroom. But what if a student in a geology class maintains that the Earth is 6,000 years old? Can he be corrected by a professor? And at that point, Representative Kramer, I expected to say, well, you know, that's really up to the faculty member to discuss how to deal with that situation, and instead said, well, if there's a continuing problem like that, it could come before a Council on Free Expression, which is to be created by the legislation. And so that Council on Free Expression has kind of an Orwellian ring to it, and it really raised my hackles a bit.
Do you think the university, the larger university, has spoken up enough about this issue?
I think the larger university is cautious about this. They're concerned. We're in the middle of a budget battle. I hate to think that it's a battle, but it always seems to be one. And funding over the university has been threatened by state legislators before over issues similar to this. Just in the past year, there were threats to university funding over university offering courses that deal with racial issues or that dealt with sexual violence. And I think they're cautious.
Dave Van Ness is a professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. It's good to have you on the program today.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks very much for being with us. We're asking about this bill over on our Upfront Facebook page. Do you support or oppose the Campus Free Speech Act? Tell us why or why not by liking and sharing Upfront on Facebook. Coming up next on Upfront, the candidate for the nonpartisan state Supreme Court who says he's a proud progressive.